So welcome everyone on the Developing Design Leadership part of the Disruption Forum Design Horizons. Let me introduce my guests. There's Francisca from Talabat with us, Aristotle from Cognizant, and Abby from Shopify. If you could, everyone, quickly introduce yourself, what you do, and why this topic is close to your hearts. That would be awesome. Let's start with Francisca.
Thanks so much. So my name is Francisca. I work at Talabat. I'm originally from Chile. I've worked across several countries around the world, and I am specifically passionate about design leadership because it's a topic that's close to my heart. I really like empowering others, and it's one of the most rewarding aspects of my career is being able to empower teams and see them succeed.
Thank you so much. Welcome. Avi, you're next.
Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Avi. I'm from Shopify, as you know, originally from Israel, but have lived in London for the last 14 years, something like that. Design leadership is a critical piece in us designers succeeding in companies and a key part of us bringing empathy and users' insights into our work and making things that are fun to use, easy to use, and bring joy to the world. Passing into you, Aristotle.
Thanks so much.
Hi all, thanks for having me today, and it's super interesting talk. It's great pleasure to joining with amazing people too, and thanks for the Netguru team to provide this wonderful opportunity. Yeah, I'm a lead product designer at Cognizant Technology Solution, a service and consulting company in UK. I'm a supporting design initiative for Fortune 500 company clients across various sectors, worked in multiple nations, MEA, Asia, and UK, delivering the business value for global markets. And I attracted with this particularly about the leadership. So we are living in a time of rapid change within a pandemic and remote work, rise of gig economic reshaping how we work. So this makes leadership more critical than ever. So leadership is the only guiding the teams through uncertainty, empowering the individual, and fostering environment where people can thrive. So that is the ultimate thing. So I want to talk about this conversation today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. And I'm Mateusz Jankowski. I'm a design manager in Netguru. I'm going to be your host today. What to say? I'm 7 years old leader, and I simply love this journey of my design career. So I'm happy to have this great guest today and discuss some topics. So let's start with the some initial things. So I'm curious, what was your own path to leadership and how to develop those skills along the way? And Francisca, I'm totally curious on your path and how it happened.
Yes, of course. So I'm a person that has always been driven by curiosity and the passion of sharing knowledge as well. So my career, I have always looked for opportunities to learn and experiment and just share with others what I have discovered. I started doing graphic design, and I was lucky enough when I graduated university to start my own agency. So I started early on with hands-on exposure about strategy, management, and leadership. And I learned that while a clear vision provides direction, the real magic happens when a team feels connected and aligned with that vision, and how important collaboration is to ensure success. So I've always really liked empowering others and teaching and sharing my knowledge. And there was a moment in my career where I was asked to reflect on whether or not I was ready to leave the tool behind. You know, as a manager, at some point, you're more focused on the people rather than on the craft itself. And it was a challenging question because I've always loved the craft, but I realized then that my impact could be far greater if I empower others to thrive and excel in their roles rather than trying to do things myself. So with this mind shift, it allowed me to embrace leadership fully. And I see my role as enabling the teams to achieve a collective potential and where they feel safe, supported, and inspired to push boundaries.
All right, yeah, that's kind of extensive. So your role takes you to being not a hands-on, and maybe there's some different direction, or maybe some of you have the opportunity to do the both things. And I wonder how you connect those two fields. So being a leader, but also having this overview over the final product. Avi, Aristotle, do you have some different approach in your leadership field?
Yeah, I think from my side, I come from an interaction design background, so can code, can do some cool stuff with electricity, things like that, and kind of like went through Samsung, having my own startup, fintech, and now Shopify. And I think coming from a very, very technical background usually creates a scenario where I have technical skills that sometimes the team does not have. So usually I would be more technical than the rest of the team. And I found that it's really helpful where I can jump in and help them out. I think management should be very much in the details, understanding everything that is happening on the product itself. And this just makes the designers faster, knowing and understanding how everything works or everything plugs in with one another just helps the designers be faster. And that's like, velocity of the team is like a big metric of how you are able to get it done and deliver impact efficiently.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it actually, those soft skills mixed with the hard skills can lead to the development of the people you work with, right? So that totally makes sense. Aristotle, I wonder, when you've been becoming a leader, what was your road to develop those skills? Because I've seen Francisca and Avi had some path as entrepreneurs, so they had to somehow. Wonder how it was in your career.
That's a good question. Like throughout my career, I've been fortunate to work with many incredible leaders who empowered their teams and created the opportunities for growth. But in fact, so I'm currently working alongside some of the most well-established leaders inside my organization. But there is one person who stands out in my journey, throughout my career journey, and the person is Dr. ABJ Abdul Kalam, India's former ex-president and the missile man, Indian aerospace scientist. I had the incredible privilege of working under his supervision on satellite operations during my undergraduate studies. And trust me, it was nothing short of life changing. During that time, so I learned the leadership is not about the title uh, or a position you hold. It's about how you influence those around you. Literally, Dr. Abdul Kalam, his remarkable ability to make everyone feels like we're part of something much bigger than themselves. His leadership philosophy was very crystal clear. Leadership is the one who gives credit to the team on success and takes the blame for failures. And I saw him embody this every day, like giving credit to the team, empowering them, acknowledge their contributions while keeping the focus on collective effort. I remember how humble and grounded he was, and despite his incredible achievements, it wasn't about his title, it was about inspiring others to think, act, and contribute to the greater good. He didn't talk about problems, he always focused on the solutions. So in fact, I often joke with my team the leaders should have a solution tattooed on their foreheads because that's the mindset we need to foster, always thinking about what can be done, not what went wrong. It's easy to blame circumstance, but leaders take responsibility and their focus remains on the path forward. So it's all about influencing others positively, give them credit, and warning your mistakes with grace. And this is like, so I would say to aspiring leaders, it's this: lead with humility, always give credit with its due, and keep your eye focused on solution, not failures. this is how I inspire.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad that you had a great mentor that you can learn from. Actually, I had a similar path in my way, so I know how great it is when you have some figure that you can learn from, and then spread this knowledge further.
Yeah.
So awesome, good thing. Then I've heard some interesting things in your stories before about mixing those soft skills with the hard skills and overviewing the work and supporting on this hard skill level. And I wonder what's your take on the, let's say, micromanagement versus transparency, some kind of drawing the line, not being too pushy, not being too inside of somebody's work, but at the same time keeping the quality and overviewing the this right check marks on the terms of the quality. Avi, maybe you will start with this one.
Yep, I think that overall you can define micromanagement in a variety of ways, and I think it has a bad name historically. It's not about how you tell people to do the work, which is the bad way, because every person is different. They have different skills, and they don't necessarily think the way you do. So diversity is a power, and by telling people how exactly to do stuff, you're diminishing that power. However, at the same time, you as a manager really need to be in the details, really understand the product. I think it's ridiculous that sometimes a team will work for like a month and then you will be surprised by what they did or what they chose to prioritize. I think those things should not happen. And so directing, being in the details, understanding how the product works, actually playing with the product yourself is key. And also participating sometimes with the design. Sometimes designers might be sick. You might want to go in and tweak and a few things, or empower someone else in your team to be able to do that. And I think, especially since there was a big flattening in the number of leaders that are now in big organizations, it is critical and is needed. The teams are like way smaller. It is needed for leaders to be a bit more player coach.
Okay, so from what I hear, I feel like it's some kind of being on top of what your leaderies are doing, right? But at the same time, being able to set the direction, being able to support along the way, sometimes overviewing the stuff, but it doesn't have to be necessarily like micromanaging thing. So it might be named wrongly. I get this point. Francisca, what's your take on it?
So I think that what Avi was describing is, I think, is like effective communication and collaboration, right? I think that micromanaging comes because there's that lack of transparency. There's this lack of collaboration inside the team that is kind of making this uncertainty, and people get this need to kind of like excessive control and like what is happening. So it's transparency that's kind of leading to the micromanaging. I think that when you build trust and when you have really good collaboration and when you establish a culture where everyone feels comfortable sharing challenges and updates and progress openly, and you have this kind of collaborative environment where you work the problem together, that's how you avoid getting to that micromanaging stage. So, and it also, as leader, is very important to have that understanding, because that's the way that we are able to strategize and communicate with other stakeholders. So it's very crucial for us to have that understanding of what's happening in the team. So I like to work the problem together with my team, so I ensure that I have that understanding and I'm able to strategize and communicate accordingly.
I like this part about figuring out stuff together and working as a team. Really important for myself and what I was achieving over the years. Aristotle, is there anything you would like to add on this one?
Yeah, like as Francisca said about the transparency, yeah, it's really important. But I want to let's clear something up, like about the over communication and the micro management, are not the same thing. It's about ensuring the clarity. The other is about control. But where do we draw the line? So I have seen it happen. Leaders who constantly check in on every detail, sending updates, asking for progress reports every hour. That's kind of micromanagement, and it stifles the creativity. Specifically, we are in the design and the creative environment. It makes people like feel like they're not trusted to do their job. On the other hand, over communication is about making sure your team has the information they need without overwhelming them. So it's about sharing the big picture and ensuring everyone's aligned. Think of it like ordering a pizza. You want to know the status of your delivery, but you don't need a call every minute asking, is the cheese melting yet? So transparency is important, but too much is like drowning on detail. The key is balance. Be clear, keep your team informed, but trust them to handle the details. Share the visions, guide whenever it's necessary, but avoid stepping on their toes. Give them the space to lead with confidence, transparency without overstepping. That's the sweet spot.
Yeah, I like this pizza reference. Like being too pushy sometimes might make the difference, but at the same time, I feel this a need of being on top what the team is doing, right? So it's our job to find the sweet spot and not to be too pushy. Awesome. So let's move to really close topic to my heart, since Netguru is remote first company. So we are leading the teams fully remotely for a few years now. And I wonder what challenges it brings, and do you have an experience working with such a setup of the teams? Maybe Aristotle, last question. You were the last one, so let's start with you this time.
Uh, Leading a remote team sounds easy, right? you, you, yeah,
Doubts?
you send an email, hop up on a Zoom call, and call it a day. But when you are thousands of miles apart, the real challenge creep in. How do you keep the team motivated? How do you maintain the productivity without a micromanagement? Or let's dive into that. I remember my first experience leading a remote team. We had team members in a different time zones, and communications felt like it was always out of sync. But I quickly learned that regular check-ins and clear communications were key. No matter where they were, my team needed to feel like they were a part of something bigger. We started using tools for real-time collaborations and scheduling catch-ups to maintain that connection. But remote isn't all smooth sailing. There's always that one person whose microphone doesn't work, or your dog makes an unexpected cameo during a serious meeting. It's not just about managing a task; it's about managing the chaos and creating sense of normalcy in the madness. So here is the deal: like communication is your lifeline. So keep your team connected, be transparent, and use the right tools for the foster the collaboration. It's about building trust, giving autonomy, and supporting each other. Even when you are miles apart, make remote work feel like a team effort, so not the distance challenge.
Yeah, yeah, I get this. And once again, the balance is the key. And I heard many times from my teams, especially those working as a team extension in the big products, and finding this right way to pick up which calls are the one that they are fully needed there, and which one they are skippable, right? Or the other ones, which could be an email. That's the tough thing to deliver along the way. Francisca, is there anything you would like to add here? What's your take on it?
So I agree with Aristotle in that trust is foundation for setting effective remote teams. So it's about make people feel empowered of their work, but knowing that there's always support when they need it. I've
Not
always
talking
found
too much.
I've always found that setting clear expectations and clear outcomes as well, but giving the team freedom to approach the work in the ways that make sense to them also helps in kind of like fostering this or managing remote teams. But effectively, yeah, trust and communication, I would say, are critical to ensure that the teams are working effectively together. And just making sure that the communication has purpose and that it doesn't feel like time consuming as well. I think what you said before is very key. Like you end up with so many meetings because we need to catch up, but how do you prioritize which ones are important and which ones are we not? So making sure that it's coming with purpose.
Thank you so much for this. I have some really interesting question from the audience. So it says, how do you actually turn a group of people into a team in a remote setting? This is something super important because having people on site in one room and then making them a team sounds easy, but how to do it with the remote setup? Avi, maybe you can answer this one.
I think there's a lot of rituals that you can engage in that would help the team feel a part. I think it's about how you onboard initially and find your way into the group. How much? I think a good remote worker generally is someone who is autonomous and accountable and is a great communicator. So as a part of that, people would have the ability to unblock themselves. However, if you want the team to feel like a team, you do create the water cooler space. You do create the games space. You do create an occasional meeting point, like physical meeting point. And you do create those rituals that kind of like anchor the team, like any team has. But generally, I think it's more critical to talk to one another. And at the end, like I sometimes say Slack is the devil, because often if there is like an argument or like a disagreement that starts on Slack, if it's more than, let's say, 4 or 5 messages on a thread, then probably you should go on a call. Or alternatively, just record a video. People laugh at me that I live in 2x, and that's true, sometimes even more than 2x if I can, depending on how fast the person is speaking. But I feel like it's a very efficient way of doing stuff. And if I don't like a meeting, I just don't go to the meeting, and I'll just like catch up with it in double the speed. So it will take me half the time. And I think recording, doing things in people's hours and all that kind of stuff are the things that make people feel accountable, because you can very easily have like other folks in your team that are not in your time zone and just like don't record or don't report after the meeting, and then you definitely feel strange.
Mm-hmm. And the fear of missing out, most likely. I'm a huge fan of actually recording ourselves when we are even, I don't know, do some kind of briefing of something. I think it's a really nice tool to do so, especially that you have those additional cues, right? Not only some written message, which could be out of energy, emotion, stuff like that, but there's this additional given value that you're seeing someone, you hear their voice, their energy, the emotion. So it gives this better bond. So I hugely recommend using this one. I'm here on the same page, Avi, with you. All right, so we are almost 5 minutes left of our time, and I would love to run a tough topic, but it's a topic that feels really relevant for the times. So the times are uncertain, especially last 2 years in our area of the product design and actually IT world in general was affected with some rounds of the layoffs, right? And this uncertainty of the times probably in some teams leads to some fears, etc. So it's even more important in such a times to work with team morale and to support them in some way. And I wonder if you have some experience how to run, I don't know, such meetings, or to support your team to go forward in such a difficult setups and environments. Aristotle, maybe you would like to start with this one.
Yeah, so uncertain times can feel like navigating a ship through a storm. It's kind of in all the sectors. In business, priorities shift and resources get tight, and the future is unpredictable. So, how do we keep our design talented, engaged, growing, and performing at their best when everything feels in a flux? The answer isn't just about weathering the storm, it's about strategically using the storm to your advantage. So, been in the situations where the budgets were lost, deadlines were compressed, and there were general sense of uncertainty. But I learned quickly that uncertainty can be a powerful driver of creativity. In times like your role as a leader, it's not just to manage, but to align the uncertainty with the purpose. I started focus on giving my team clear directions and sense of ownership in the projects. So even if we didn't have all the answers, we focused on the agile processes in the constantly testing and iterating. So knowing that failures wasn't the setback, it was an opportunity to pivot and learn. So here is that clever plot, like when uncertainty is the backdrop, you have to double down on flexibility. Don't just provide the solution. Empower your team to design their own responses to challenges. Invest in a cross-disciplinary learning. So where designer can learn from marketers or product teams and the developers. So this creates a versatile talent that adaptable and can thrive in any environment. So to manage and grow the talent in uncertain times, so embrace the flexibility is the most important step, and empower your team with ownership and encourage a cross-functional learning. So that is the key. But it's leverage the uncertainty to fuel innovation and the growth. So now is the time to think strategically and build a resilient, so adaptable the team that can weather any storm. So the flexibility and adaptability is most matter to empower your team.
That's interesting point, Aristotle. Thank you. How does it look like from your perspective, Francisca?
I tend to agree in the first of all, you need to acknowledge reality, but I agree with Aristotle that it's very important to see how what you said is very powerful, how you turn this, how you use the storm to your advantage. So it's something that I always try to do with my team, is like, how do this changes and how does the uncertainty becomes an opportunity. So it's trying to make that shift from, yes, we acknowledge that this is something negative, but how can we make it an opportunity so that opens other doors and open growths in your career.
That's an awesome take. I actually had a similar discussion Web Summit last week with one of the head of designs, and I heard a similar perspective, and I think it really works in those tough times. We are close to the finishing line, but I would love to hear what you, Abby, have in your mind connected to this topic.
I think both what Aristotle and Francisca said is great. I have nothing to add.
That's perfect. So we are right on time with schedule. Team, it was a pure pleasure. Francisca, Aristotle, Adi, thank you so much. Thanks everyone listening, and have a great day. Cheers.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
all. Cheers.